So biomarkers in general, we often think of the genome. Like I have alleles for green, blue eyes. And anyone in the world that has that gene set, alleles, they're called, but who has that gene code will have green, blue eyes. It doesn't matter where they're living. It doesn't matter. It's ubiquitous across the world, as I said earlier. So a biomarker is something that is common across. If you see it in a population in North America and you see the same thing in a population in Japan, that's a biomarker. If it codes to the same thing. Now, words don't do that. All you have to be in Canada, you can comfortably walk into areas where there's French is the dominant language, And here in the US, we have multiple languages everywhere. So I look at vocal biomarkers as elements below the word level that provide a commonality across populations, regardless of where they live in the world. And that's so critical. So if I'm measuring anxiety based on not the words they're speaking, but on how the characteristics of the vocal cords are driven by the central nervous system. So the central nervous system is driving this. And when I get anxious, it drives my vocal cords more rapidly. That's common across all populations. It's even common across people who have training and who try, because it's a self-conscious thing. You're not controlling it consciously. So, and there are 2,590 of these features in speech that are not controlled consciously, that drive the articulatory system, that makes speech and languages, 150, 200 different languages around the world, many, many, many different languages. But the basic information that creates any of those languages is the same. And that's a vocal biomarker, something that creates what we hear from the central nervous system controlling the tongue and the cheeks and the jaw and the respiration and the vocal cords and the musculature around the vocal cords. All of that is self-conscious, objective, and that's what we're measuring.
So can I say, for instance, it's language independent. So doesn't matter what demographics, what language you speak, every human has these biomarkers, or is it by demographic?
No, it's all the same. And I say that, but scientists don't just assume that. So we built our initial models for behavioral health in the Northeast with a range of different hospitals. Everything we do is built within a hospital environment or a clinical medical environment with a primary investigator that's a clinician and a primary investigator that's a scientist, usually the scientist on our side, the clinician on that side. So everything's built under that kind of rigor. But we took our models for behavioral health and then we tested them across all 50 states using independent clinical research groups to gather the data, and across Canada, and in England, Ireland, Australia, all English. And then Spanish, we did the same thing in the US, in Spain, and in South America. And we gathered all this data and we validated across different languages in different geographies to see if accents or if other issues of differences across the spoken or what we hear as language would make a difference in what we are analyzing for behavioral health. We then did the same thing for mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's, identically that. So multiple studies, a dozen studies, in the case of behavioral health, tens of thousands of audios captured within a clinical research framework and then tested to prove that these are sublanguage. Now, we never launch a new model in a new language without doing that validation. We're doing that in Holland right now in Dutch. We're doing it in Saudi Arabia in Arabic. We're going to add 3 more languages next year, minimum. And so we do that, and that takes us about 6 weeks of work. We take the algorithm that we've developed for that particular disease, and we test it with a smaller group, 50 to 150 individuals. If we see any different deviation from the same level of accuracy, if there's different reasons, features that we're seeing, then we would expand that group and do a broader study. We haven't seen that yet.